Well, with that being said, I want to introduce the bulk of our Discord tools that we do have. Oops, let's go in here. What we want to understand is that the way Chemo has sectioned off our, trading prep and things like that, got announcements, testimonials, club profits, watch lists. I'm sure you've seen in there. But every day he's going to post out the upgrades, downgrades, the price target changes, and what the economic calendar looks like. All right. So you should understand that that basis of research is done for you on a daily basis. Before market even opens, Chemo is going to have that posted for y'all. Trade ideas, earnings is also part of what's coming up, and then theory crafting. Trade ideas and theory crafting are where IC members are welcome to post the things that they see and the things that they've experienced with their trades with people. Earnings, we'll use the word catalysts. Earnings help price move fast. We'll also talk a little bit later about how squeezes are another type of catalyst that are a mechanical function of the markets too. And then, additional news, we've got some Twitter bots and things like that that'll give us breaking news. For example, things about like Boeing and Tesla production, good and bad news. We'll try to get that as soon as we can in there too. When you guys are done with the class here, you guys will be put into ICA graduates to continue the learning with us. Like we had said, we wish we could give you a quick 2-week thing and it would be everything about markets that you would ever need to know, but that's just not how this industry works. There's constant updates, there's constant news, there's constant changes to the way economics work as well, or in terms of just things that are constantly moving within our cycles and business cycles. So in our graduates channel, there is additional stuff that will continue afterwards. But again, you'll be put into that after next Friday. Our main chat, you guys probably seen that, just where the majority of things happen. The degenerates, you'll see there's a clown in there. Right now, if you guys could quickly pull up the chat and say, I will not be a clown or I will not be a degenerate, please. You're gonna go ahead and type that into the chat for me, please, because I wanna make sure you guys actually don't listen to what's going on in this channel. If you do understand that you didn't wanna go to Vegas instead and wanted to gamble on this, then that's where you would go. But none of you guys joined us here in order to gamble. You guys joined in here in order to learn how to make proper evaluation, how to make and take good positions in order not to gamble your money away, okay? And then here what we have to do is, we already learned about options. We gotta talk about our Discord tools, okay? So let's jump a little bit into that. Okay. We have had updates throughout the years. Keep in mind, not all of these did exist at the very beginning. Over the course of last year, we've added Big Money, which was actually a channel that I requested due to certain things and observations that I have made. We have a flow scanner that now is a reprint of what shows up in option and ETF flow. But what the flow scanner does is it allows us to view multiple prints a little bit more easily. And let's actually talk about what goes on within the scanner so you guys can make sense about what's going on. What will happen is there's dark pool options purchases and then there's stock purchases. The stock one, I'll say Chemo keeps an eye more on this. I actually have the stock options part muted. I'm more focused upon where the options, what they're putting on the options market. But in equity, they'll give you the ticker, they'll tell you when they purchased, how many they purchased, what price they purchased at, and how many millions of dollars were used to purchase that. On the option side of it, you have similar stuff, the ticker, what time they purchased, but here we understand there's the expiration date, the agreed strike price. It'll either be a call or a put. There'll be the price of the equity at that point at when they purchased. So SPY was at 400, right? But then you can say that the premium, they'll give you how many they purchased at what price. Then there's going to be 3 things that can show up under the type. I want you to think of it in terms of you going shopping, okay? Because that's what they're doing. They're shopping for these stocks. Sweep is to say, buy me everything, go to every store, go to Ralph's, go to You know, go to Vaughn's, go to every grocery store in town, buy me everything, wipe them out. I want them right now. That's what sweep is. So sweep shows the most amount of urgency, and sweep will be something that bumps up the final score that we have calculated. Block is to say, go put in a big order. So we're just going to go put in a big order with Vaughn's. We're just going to go put in a big order with, with Ralph's, etc. Right? Or split is to say, hey, go fill it in the different areas that you can, which is the least relaxed. So ultimately, they become mathematical multipliers for the final score that is calculated, that Chemo put together. But with all of it, there's a total premium and a final calculation that comes out of a score number anywhere, right, from, I would say, from 1 to over 100. 40 is where it'll get reprinted into the unusual options channel. Anytime over $1 million is used, it'll show up under the big money channel. So you got to keep in mind, it'll show up here. It'll get replicated into Flow Scanner. If it's unusual enough, it'll show up unusual options. And if it's enough big money, it'll show up in big money. Does that make sense? Now, what I also do in big money, because that's the one that I helped put together, if you notice a 100-point score next to something in big money, it shows that big money's putting their money where their mouth is. Okay, let's go ahead and talk a little bit further about these things. Okay, this was just under announcements when Chef did update things. The ETF tickers now and the bugs have now been fixed, so that no longer applies. This is just what I just explained, but a little bit about how the algorithm together works. There is also a document in the Discord, I'll link you guys all to, that talks about, is Chemo's explanation of what I just said about the Discord and how that number is technically calculated. But very quickly, it's based upon here, it says the total order premium versus the days to expiration, how short the contract is in terms of expiration date, the total amount of money they spent, how fast they want their shares or how fast they want the option to be filled. And it ultimately will give us an indication of the aggression or the aggressiveness of that move. And I want to point out, I'm a 90s kid, so I think this is an evolution for you guys, where you guys will start to understand and be able to see this options chain a little bit differently. Okay, this is just another equity block option flow. Okay, so here we go. Back before big money was founded, no, back in my day, back before the big money was founded, I would actually go into the Discord search bar, and I'd be searching premium 1 mil, 1.1, 1.2 mil, etc. I would also be looking for scores 101, 102, 103, 104, like all the way up. And what I had noticed was, and my theory behind this is, nobody's just going to go in an investment situation, just throw $1 million just to throw $1 million at it. They have to have calculations. They have to have their analysis in place. Another thing as well is the number for our score starts to bump up higher the moment that these prices happen to be more and more out of the money in particular. So in this situation, this was back in March, right when we first started to head down in terms of the market. The market hadn't gone down below 440 just all that much. And somebody was putting over $10 million on the fact that it was going to be $20 less within the next month or two. And so I'd written this within our chat and said, would you put $6 million or would your boss sign off on that $6 million options contract, options put contract? It's $20 out of the money a month away. And we all know it'll expire worthless if it doesn't make a move toward it, okay? Just things to consider, right? Chef, he's the one that helps us with the scanners as well. He's the one that helps us with the computer science side of things. He also said it's very far out of the money. And I reminded them, it's not something just a single individual is doing. There's many brains put together for that one, along with algorithms, I'm sure. And one of my other students said, this stuck with me the first time that I heard you say it. Now, it's one thing to say this, it's another to show you what ended up happening. I know it's kind of overlaid, a little bit opaque, but basically this was taken out back right here. That's where the check mark is. They very likely would have gotten out here. They could have had a second chance and even a third chance to get out, although theta would have chomped them up quite a bit. My expectation is within this first drop, they likely got themselves out pretty quickly, and it was actually quite a nice return for them. Okay. What else? Let's talk about this real quick, and I'll let you guys go in just a sec. So here's my theory, and this is the explanation of it in terms of big money. Okay, big money in our Discord. Keep in mind, this channel did not exist until about February of this year. So you guys are still within the first year of this, this showing up in our scanner. In the past, you would have to do this manually to find everything. So a part of our lesson today was to understand that out of the money options are high risk. They're used for speculation. They're essentially, a lot of people use the word, they're a bet. It's a bet that something's going to go in a certain direction. And the majority of them expire worthless, not only because of your Max Payne theory, where the profitability lies in the hands of the market maker if it ends up expiring worthless. So they already have incentive to make you lose your money when you think about it. And that's a very risky situation. It's expected. Then you think about how short, out of the short expiration dates on these specific situations, not only has a very large theta, like we showed, you end up fighting an uphill battle if you just hold it for a day, because you're giving up a large chunk and portion of that contract, and you have a very little margin of error. Once this contract is over, that money's gone. That's super risky, right? It's out of the money. And so this is supposed to say $1 million here, but the large dollar amount spent on this out of the money, well, it's just showing somebody is taking a large purchase on a low probability. That's super risky. So what happens if you take all three of these situations and you multiply them together? You have big money's confidence with a time target with the highest possible return you could get on that type of move. Okay, so it's almost like looking at, you've got I'm going to use a casino example. You're at the casino, and you know that the casino's best friend, like the casino host's best friend, just walked up to the table and slapped $1 million down on something. And they mess with the things, right? They mess with the way that the casino works. Well, it's not to say that he's 100% going to win, but it is a sign that big money and smart money may have some calculations or know something that we might not. Okay. And so here's a quick example. I've been sharing this about Ford. Ford 2 weeks ago came in with this, and while this premium wasn't ginormous, this was $2 out of the money, and this was an unusual score, so 49. Okay, and that's actually price being right here. What ended up happening with this? I was monitoring this. I took the beginning of it. I profited just a tiny bit, but you can imagine they had gotten and purchased. This is the options contract, and the value right now has shot up. And that was them purchasing around here or here. As price went down for this put, it went from that 22 cents, 23 cents. And as of today, I was looking at it. If you had just held it for 2 weeks, it would have multiplied itself by 6. And that's a gain. So technically you're looking at times 7, right? Your $22 now is looking over here at $168 per contract. So the return can be quite ridiculous, right? Here's an Apple put, because yesterday what came in was, here you have, the score is a little bit lower, but you have $7.4 million at a spot of, so they're expecting it to go down 10 bucks, but their expiration, they bought this for 2025. Okay, and so you see 5 people are looking at like, that's real interesting. 4 of them notice how long of a time frame that's taking. Well, it doesn't mean you necessarily want to get in on their exact same contract, but what it does is it allows us to understand that, yes, number one, this is already a fairly aggressive score. They're putting quite a bit of money there for quite a long period of time. So what did I do? I was already looking and I was expecting Apple to break down below 150 because of where we were at. And I purchased the contract at 375 per. And this morning, watched it pretty much move itself up. Eventually, I set my stop loss once we had moved up. And when it came back, I think it was right here, it got me out of it. Okay. So, I put my stop loss in the green. I had a little bit of confidence, not only because my charts showed me that I expect price for Apple to go down. There's also news recently about how they're slowing down their production. You now also have this big giant money that just came in to say they expect Apple maybe to actually have some trouble over the next X amount of years. And right now they're willing to put 2K per contract in here. So as a result, that gave me enough confidence to go pick up one of these contracts to swing throughout and swing it overnight to, and this is essentially, and here's another thing to keep in mind. I got out at, I think it was 650 was where I put my stop loss. Later on in the day, it went up closer to $8 or $800 in terms of per contract. In this situation, you got to keep in mind, the goal here is not to time the bottoms and the tops. The goal is to get yourself in the green and to stay green, because this just as well, I could hold it till tomorrow and very well it could put me back down in a situation where now I'm looking red. Okay, so learn to take those profits, learn not to FOMO, learn, again, we'll talk more about the psychology as we continue. But one thing for you guys to just to kind of look through the Discord a little bit, you can go look up the words case study, or what you can do is you can go into the big money part and just look up some big prints and go see what ended up happening with them. So this was that case study with the big money situation. And if I were to enlarge this, it says it's about one or 2 days later, it was 150% return. Later on, it turned into over 200, almost 300% return. You can just go in, look up hashtag case study, and you'll come up and be able to look up a couple of these different ones that have, again, the returns for these can be quite ridiculous. 600%, 700%, 10x in some situations. But keep in mind, you got to be patient and wait for these types of things. And they're not going to hit every single time. But a lot of them have to do with the fact that, hey, the higher score, something over 40, something over 50, and especially the ones over 100, give us an idea that something may be potentially happening. Here's a really interesting one. Right near close, near the end of the day, Snapchat, before some big news was about to pop, so someone came in and put in $1 million, over $1 million on it for a leap, which was way later. So you can imagine they purchased here. Their target was to be anywhere above this. And at the end of the day, it actually popped overnight. And this contract, this 1.4 mil returned 2.8 mil the next day. So they came back with 300%. That makes sense. They gained 200% within a day or two. So take your time, look through these. We'll also talk about how to make the options calculator work and how you guys can study those types of things. But understand that when big money makes these bets on this table, it is something for you to consider and to take a look at. So here, this was Ford. Again, Ford had gone quite a bit, 2x, then 6x when you see. Okay. Any final questions, you guys?